Okay, we're recording.
Thank you all for joining us tonight for the Mountain Sage Board's Community Update Program. This is an event that gives the board an opportunity to introduce ourselves and share with you some of the great things happening behind the scenes at Mountain Sage. It also gives us a chance to hear from you and to field questions. Hello, my name is Bo Bump, and I currently serve as board president. For our program tonight, you will get to hear from all of the board members and from our fantastic school director, Liv Helmrichs. First up will be Board Secretary Eric Richardson, who will give an overview of the board and we'll talk about what we do. It's a question we get quite a bit. What does the board do? Well, Eric is here with the answer. Next, School Director Liv Helmrichs will have some remarks about the state of the school, which we are proud to say will be entering its 10th year this fall. After Liv, you will hear from Ashley Haas, who has been the chair of the facilities committee this year and who will be stepping into the role of board president for the 22-23 school year. Ashley will share what's been going on from a facilities standpoint at Mountain Sage and what is on the horizon. After Ashley, board treasurer Brian Kimball will have a presentation on school financials, which is always interesting to learn more about. And finally, you will hear from Board Vice President Rachel Sudhalter and incoming Board Secretary Stephanie Cosby about the board election, which gets underway next week. I believe we do have the chat function live tonight, so please feel free to type any questions into the chat and we will do our best to get them answered. So that's the plan. Thank you again for being here. But before I turn it over to Eric, I just want to take the chance on behalf of the board to thank all of the wonderful people who put in long hours to make Mountain Sage the magical place that it is. From our amazing teachers to our awesome staff, folks serving on committees, volunteers, parent circle, and of course to our incredible school director and administration. The school is made better every day by each of you. And we as a board just want to acknowledge that, recognize you, and thank you for all your contributions. All right, Eric. Take it away.
Hi, everyone. I'm Eric Richardson, and I've been serving on the board for Mountain Sage since 2017. And I'm currently serving as a secretary. And as Bo said, a lot of times people don't know what the board is and its relationship to the school district and the school. People are familiar with school boards in terms of like Poudre School District. They have many schools that roll up underneath Poudre School District. And in fact, our charter authorization is through Poudre School District. So we are a part of PSD, you might say, but we are a public charter school. Now, under PSD, you have all those different schools with a single board. And then they have superintendent and staff that work under the superintendent to enact policy across all of the schools in the district. For a public charter school, we're a much smaller organization, but we have our own board. When you get a charter authorization as a public school, charter school, you are essentially beholden to the policies and the policies that are out there for the school district, unless they give you exemptions and for policies. And so we do have a number of exemptions and policies that are specific to our school. And we're a governance school, a governance board, which means that we don't get into the day-to-day operations of the school. Those are delegated to our wonderful school director, Liv Helmrichs. And it's our responsibility to kind of set the guardrails in terms of establishing policy for the school. We have fiscal responsibility as a board to ensure that the school is on sound footing from that perspective. We also have various board committees that help in some aspects, like school performance. We have the School Accountability Committee, or SAC, which looks into that, the performance of our students and things like that. We've got our finance committee, which is always looking at the budget and things like that. And so we're relatively hands-off in the day-to-day operations, but we do meet regularly with Liv and Nancy joins us regularly as well on our school board meetings. Some people don't realize that school board meetings are actually public. I remember when I first came to one of these meetings, this is how I got introduced to the school board, was coming to one of these what we used to call a town hall in February of 2017. And then I started talking to Hillary, one of our founding board members for the school, one of our school founders, about the potential for joining the board after that, because they were looking for board members, just like we always are, because we always have new families coming into the school and people leaving the school. And I remember when I joined my first meeting, I wasn't sure if I could be there. I was asking permission to join the board meeting, and is it okay for me to come because I'm not a member of the board? And people don't realize that we're a public institution. So all board meetings where we make any decisions are public, and anyone is welcome to join us. And so we do have a lot of things coming up. People might think because we're not as big as like the district that maybe there's not that much going on, but we have a lot of things going on. In particular, you'll hear a little bit later from folks about some of the cool things that are going on with facilities. We also have our charter reauthorization that's going to be coming up. And so we can always use more help. It's an interesting way to volunteer and give your time to the school that has you working very closely with the school itself. And I've volunteered other ways. I remember helping build our dome out in the playground area, and that was cool. And I remember showing up and working on that quite a bit, and then leaving, and I'm like, that was really cool, but I don't feel like I knew much more about the school than when I went to volunteer. So this is just kind of a cool way that you can participate with the school directly if you have any interest in things like joining the board or want to know more about what we do. But with that, I'll pass it on. I think you said our next one is School Director Liv Helmerich, right?
Thanks, Eric. Hi, everybody. Thanks for being here tonight. Return to the Zoom meeting, but maybe a little more accessible for everyone. So thank you. Thanks for joining us. So as Eric said and Bo mentioned, this is our 9th year of operation. We're looking ahead to our 10th year of operation next year, which is really exciting. I've been here since the beginning. I'm a school founder, for those of you who don't know, and my path has led me and continued on this path. And I feel so grateful and humbled to do this work every single day and to serve this community. So we're K at School. We have our Forest Homeschool Enrichment Program, which is new this year in this form as a Forest School Enrichment Program. We serve close to 300 students. And as we're looking ahead to next year, it's looking like our classes will be full. We're excited about that. Next year also marks the first class that has gone through Mountain Sage, K through 8. So we're graduating our first 8th grade class that has traveled through our whole program this year. And my daughter happens to be in that program. So pretty exciting. Quite a benchmark. So what a year it's been. We're all here and continuing to engage in this very important work every single day. But after 2021, after last year, this year represents the first return to our full-time in-person school programming, which has been a wonderful return. Hooray. And our health team, I want to acknowledge some folks as I travel through my update. Our health team has been absolutely incredible, navigating all these complications through COVID and partnering with families around unique health needs. So just a thank you to everyone for that positive family partnership during this really unique and challenging time. So I'm happy to say that right now things are going great in terms of health. We're doing really well, and we're really looking forward to another even more normal school year next year. So that's hopeful and exciting. Coming up, some things that will be helpful. We mentioned it in the beat that came out today, but family teacher conferences are coming up. mid-April, April 14th and 15th. So the sign up for that will come out next week, but this is a really important opportunity for families to connect with their class teachers. And also there's an option to connect with subject teachers during those conference times. So the sign up will come out, like I said, and please take this opportunity to connect with the folks who work with your kids every day. It's an important time to kind of work together in partnership. For K through 5. Those conferences are just for parents and the teacher, but in elementary school, we invite the student to that, and it's a conversation between the student, the parent, the teacher. So make sure that's on your calendar. Also important, and looking ahead to next year, we have been really fortunate and put a lot of work and effort into upholding our hot lunch program, which is the first time we've offered a hot lunch program here at Mountain Sage. And it's gone well. We make it work every single day. And it's something that we will be continuing next year. There are questions that remain around whether or not this program will remain to stay free for all students who participate. So we'll see where that goes, but we'll be keeping you posted on that. But that's been a great improvement, and it feels really good to feed kids every day. And it's fun. And I see at least 1 or 2 volunteers here tonight who help, parent volunteers who help us with our school lunch program. And thank you. And it really is a great way to engage with the kids. And so I want to encourage those of you who think you might be curious to reach out and let us know if you want to help with that. In the realm of accountability and assessment, again, you might have seen this in the beat today, Colorado Measures of Academic Success, which is our state mandated annual assessment. It's coming up mid-April. 3rd through 8th grade take those assessments in language arts, math, science. Science is taken in 5th and 8th grade. Our elementary school kids take those paper pencil based, all except the 5th grade science. And then our middle school students do that on the computer. So that's coming up. We appreciate your partnership and just helping your kids be well rested and fed. And we really try to make this feel as nurturing as it can. It can be stressful time for some kids to engage in assessments like this, but we balance it out with lots of outdoor time, a few school provided snacks, a little more space for kids during this time. So there's that. Also on the horizon, Mayfair, which is coming up May 6th. And it's been, again, over the past couple of years, our festival life has taken a different trajectory. And so May 6th, this upcoming Mayfair, while it is not an event that we invite the whole parent community to, because it happens during the school day, we're still going to need volunteers. And if it works for your schedule and you're interested, we want to welcome you to come to that. And we are looking forward to the return of festival life in its full bloom next year, which is really exciting. So looking forward to spring. Feels exciting. This feels like a good and important springtime celebration. What else do I want to say? Oh, also on May 6th, we've traditionally hosted a middle school spring dance on May 6th. So while Mayfair kind of represents the spring celebration for, a little bit more resonant with our younger students, our middle schools have that middle school dance coming up too. So more details to follow soon. In the realm of parent engagement, this is going to be something that we're really reinvigorating next year. The volunteer culture, parent circle, school accountability, which Eric mentioned, festival life. We're going to be looking for more parent involvement in our festival committee. And so some exciting opportunities. And I also just want to thank our volunteer board. As Eric mentioned, the board is a group of volunteers. And thank you for everything you do all the time. Volunteering is so important at Mountain Sage, and it's going to feel good to get back to that a little bit more full swing in the year to come.
Thank you, Liv.
Couple other things. Let's see, how am I doing on time? Hiring, we're hiring. We have jobs posted. Spread the word, take a look. Things are going to continue to be updated, but keep an eye on that. And I'll close just by saying Teacher Appreciation, the official Teacher Appreciation Week comes up in early May. But I just want to encourage all of you to let your teacher know that you appreciate them. Assuming you do, and I'm assuming you do. It has been quite a journey over the last couple of years, and I am continually inspired and humbled by this really incredible group of deeply committed, deeply caring teachers and staff who work here to serve our young people. So say thanks, spread a little note, offer a little smile, cup of coffee, maybe just a nice positive thought that you keep to yourself. These things, a little goes a long way. And I'll just close by saying, for all that we've been through and the path we've traveled together as a school community over the last couple of years, we are so committed to this school. We love this school and we have learned a lot. And so as I look ahead to next year, I'm looking forward to leveraging all that we've learned, rebuilding these connections, rejuvenating our culture and our connections together, and just moving forward to be the best school we can be through all this. So thank you. I don't remember who I'm passing it on to. Can someone remind me?
Thank you, Liv. Ashley.
Thank you.
Thank you, Liv. That was a great update. And I second Liv that there's some really great things ahead for the school. And which brings me to my topic. So thanks everybody again for coming tonight. This is a great turnout. It's great to see everybody. My name's Ashley Hawes. I'm the facilities chair. And let's see, I'm on my first year of being on the board. I've been a parent here for 5 years. I have a son in 5th and a daughter in 2nd at the school. And I've been always pretty involved in volunteering until I was on the board, and really became on the board because I wanted to just support the school in a different way. And so I got on the board last year, and they said to me, I think at the first meeting, when you really need somebody to get this facilities piece really, geared up and moving forward. And Ashley, you seem like a really good person to do that. And I have a background in construction management. That was my career before now. So I said, okay, that sounds like a good idea. I'll take that on. And so we've been working really hard, since probably the beginning of the school year, and learned a lot in that process. And, we've kind of had some ups and some downs and some ups and some downs. And so I'm going to just kind of wrap this up in a nice little bow to give you an update on where we're at. And, if you have any questions, stick them in the chat box there, and we'll do our best to answer those. So just so you all know, I don't know how many of you know, but from the start of the school, when we first opened 9 years ago, we've always been a tenant of our building. We don't own our building, and we've grown quite a bit as well. So of course, when we started the school, we didn't have as many students and we didn't have as many faculty. And so as we've grown, we didn't have the little piece that's to the south as you go in the building to the left. That piece has been added on since we've been there. And we've remodeled a couple of times, right, since we've been in there. And we've really just grown into this building. And it served us really well because the location is ideal. with the access to nature and the fairy woods and how much that really connects us to our mission. It's really perfect. But we also know that we want to keep growing because there's such a huge community of families in the area that want to be here. And we want to serve all of them. Well, we know we can't serve them all, but we want to serve as many as we can. And so that was the goal, is how can we continue to expand the school and provide the same experience with access to nature, but also maintain a sustainable future for the school. And so that's what we set off to do, is figure out what that might look like. And we went out there in the world and we got team members. We have an owner's representative helping us, and we have a real estate person helping us, and we have a sustainability person helping us, and we have people from the founders, you know, from that have helped the school. And we have a fantastic team, this amazing team. Okay. And we went out and we said, okay, how much can we afford, and what properties are available? And we learned that after kind of going through that process for several months, that it costs a lot to go out and build a brand new building on a piece of land as a charter school. And the reason why is because as a charter school, we don't get any help or support with our facilities at all. If we were part of the district, under the district's little wing, they would provide facility for us. And it would be a very different situation. But as a charter school, that is something that we have to financially support on our own, which, you know, gives us some limitation. And so we thought, well, that's okay. We're going to go out and find an existing building, and we're going to remodel an existing building. We've done it before, we can do it again. And when we went out and we looked for existing buildings that were available right now in our market, most of them were by a railroad track. Or most of them were beyond our budget, right? So we were just kind of feeling defeated about where we were at, and wanted to take a step back. And as we were doing that, we were also in the situation of understanding that our current landlord was putting the building up for sale that we are in. And so what we decided was that the best option for us at this current time was that we were going to purchase our current building, because we would rather own the building than have another owner that we were leasing to. This is a much better situation for us in the long run. It could potentially be a short-term situation, right? I mean, we could still continue to look for property in the area, see if anything fits our needs. But at this current time, based on what we can afford, and because this location is fantastic, close to nature, we already are here, we love it, we've made it our home, that it makes sense for us to own it, because there's so many benefits to owning. We have benefits like we can get access to different grants and programs that we can't get access to as a leaser of a building. We also get equity over time, right? And so that helps us financially become more stable. And we just have more control over what we can do at our building, right? As somebody who's leasing a building, like if you're a renter, you couldn't go and just like remodel the place that you're renting or like add on to it, right? But if we own the building, we have the opportunity to do more with our building as well. And so we're in the process. And here's another thing too, that just so y'all know, is the market's hot, right? The market is super hot right now. But Liv and the staff have created this amazing relationship with our landlord over these years that we've been there. And even though he had competing offers, we were able to come in with our first right of refusal, and he was willing to work with us, which was amazing. So we're under contract, currently in the process of purchasing our building. And if all goes well, then we will be the proud owner of our building on April 27th. And that's the first phase of this big project. We don't really know what the next phase looks like, but as that comes a little more clear, we will keep you guys informed of what that looks like and keep you in the loop. That's really all I have to share. I hope that gives you enough information to kind of understand where we're at and how we got here.
Thank you, Ashley. Thank you very much. Next up, we have Brian Kimball.
Hello, everyone. I'm Brian Kimball. I'm the treasurer on the board and have been either in the training for the position or in the position for the last 2 years. I joined the board midway through the 1920 school year. So it's been about 2.5 years for me. And what a 2.5 years it has been. But it's been really great because we've had such a strong foundation within this board that makes it a little bit easier to kind of work through the difficult times, right? So one of those difficult times was last year. We went through 8 versions of our budget, which we had to approve by the board. This year, we've done it the one time, and we have a nice final version that we'll be approving next month. So that gives you a little perspective of how different and unique last year was. And the reason why we have to, just to give you a quick kind of reason why, I guess, we are approving or we're approving so many different budgets is because whenever there's new income sources for the school, we have to approve how that income is then going to get spent as an entire budget. So we maintain the balanced budget, work closely with Liv and the school business manager, Ashley or Amanda, sorry, who she is here. I see her name there. Who does a fantastic job keeping the books and building out the budget and has helped us in such a tremendous way, making everything that Ashley just mentioned happen and getting ready to purchase the building. And so I'm going to actually show, I have visuals. So I'll show you because numbers don't mean anything to me without something to see with those. And so I thought I'm going to make you guys look at my pictures too. So I'll explain that, but and you'll see kind of how the school has evolved because it's some of them are time lapse, and let me bring those up and very simple. Picking the wrong one. There we go. And so overall, you'll see the budget breakdown here. And the size of the box represents the size, the chunk of the budget that's taken out by that piece. And you see the vast majority is focused on our salaries for our teachers, for our admin. It's really important for us to make sure that our teachers are paid well. And we're doing some hard strategic looks at how our base salaries for our teachers are matching and comparing to Poudre School District and to other charter schools. And we're putting in place some plans over the next few years to try to correct some of those and build up to be not just competitive to gain the teachers, but to also retain our great teachers and the teachers that are doing so well for our students. And that is reflected here, and you can see that. So this year, it was a little unique. Our operations and maintenance budget jumped a little bit higher than it normally is. It's normally number 3, and the employee benefits is number 2. However, we had a little investment in the playground, which you're probably very familiar with. And we also have a little chunk that we have dedicated from our reserves to make sure that the purchase of the facility is going to happen. So there were capital costs and non-capital costs, which break down into things that are capital costs or kind of improvements or things that are done to the facility or the property. And then non-capital costs might be a down payment or earnest money or something that we actually, in the end, will get back. So this, when it is all balanced and finished at the end of the year, it may look slightly different than what you're seeing right now, but this is a current snapshot. And you'll see the business services, student support, those are all also fairly decent sized chunks of the budget that are growing, and they fluctuate based on our student needs and what we can project those student needs to be in the future. So I just want to double check. I don't see the chat function anymore. So if there are questions, can somebody just let me know? Okay, so why don't we'll take a look at, everybody loves looking at numbers. I know you do, so I'm gonna make sure they look at least a little pretty. You'll see over the last 7 years, and then there's a projected budget for next year, which I thought you might find interesting, where we can see how financially the school has grown, which is very interesting. It kind of shows the health and how well we've been able to maintain a balanced budget through the years. And this is really important because you should trust and know that the administration is keeping good books, and we have a strong, stable foundation for the school for your children to go to for years. Now, moving on to compare what our revenue looks like for enrollment. A lot of this has to do with our PPR, which is our per pupil revenue, and we get that directly from the state. So the numbers, and you can see how it jumped from 1819 to 1920 because that PPR in the state budget had increased significantly. And then throughout the pandemic, it dropped slightly. And this year went down just a little bit more, but it was also a reflection of our enrollment. So without our enrollment maintaining at the levels that it have been, or increasing like we're looking at for next year, it's going to be very difficult for us to continue to grow on this path. And a part of that facilities planning conversation was around how can we, again, to support what Ashley was saying, how can we support our community as much as we can, because we can't support all of them. We have an incredible demand, but yet if we maintain and grow the facility in a proper way, does that allow us to increase our enrollment, therefore our revenue, and then all things, all boats rise with the tide, right? Hopefully. And so on the flip side of that is, how do our expenses look for the enrollment? And looking at sort of estimated enrollment versus the expenses. Now, the reason why you see a jump in expenses for this year and next year are, again, facilities improvements like the playground, and some additional like bond payments that are going to be happening next year to fund the facility. So depending on how that enrollment ends up, if we stay flat with the enrollment, this is what you'll see, versus a jump in potential revenues to offset the additional expenses. I see we have a question that popped up. Okay, there's a question about where in the budget does teacher training for Waldorf education fit in, or are there fundraising opportunities we might work on to assist with that? We do have a training and professional development line item for teachers. And over the last couple of years, it worked out to where it was mostly virtual. So some of the expenses were lower than we had budgeted for. And we fixed that moving forward to expect that there's going to be additional Waldorf training that could involve travel. And so there's that's a detailed piece that actually Amanda or Liv could probably speak more directly to, but I'll let you know that there is an actual budget line item that we set aside each year that's reflective to the number of teachers we have and their expected path if there's additional training that they might need. And the second part of that question, you can definitely get involved with fundraising. We are always interested in folks who are who want to be involved, obviously with the board, but with fundraising, even if it's program specific, if it is something that directly affects the teachers, there's some kind of nuances that are involved there. But we have been working on a strategy for a fundraising, specific fundraising group or committee within the board that addresses larger capital needs. And one of those, if you were around a couple of years ago, were the buses. We're trying to figure out student transportation and figuring if we could get a couple of vans, how they could be used for field trips and potentially some other kinds of student transportation. Now, that obviously wasn't completely fulfilled because we went into lockdown in a pandemic. So that funding, though, when it's raised for a very specific reason, gets set aside as program specific funding for nonprofits. So that's different than putting money into a general fund or a donation towards an entire organization. So I know that's a long answer for a short question, but I hope it gets there. And those are my 4 simple slides and my visuals. So if there aren't any other questions, I will pass it on to Stephanie and Rachel to talk about the election.
Thanks, Brian. Yeah, so as Brian said, yeah, if you're interested, we are happy to have you on the board if you want to do some grant writing or fundraising and join that committee. First off, on behalf of the board, we want to thank Bo for his service for the last few years. Bo will be rolling off at the end of this school year. He's been our president. And we have had a lot of interest this year, which has been great. We've had 7 interested candidates over the course of this school year. And again, if you're interested, I'll plug it again. If you want to be on our fundraising committee and on the board, it's not too late to join the board, even though we are having elections. We are still, you might not be elected this go around, but we are happy to talk with you and get that process going for the upcoming school year. Speaking of elections, there are 4 candidates on the ballot this year, or this next week when we are voting. 2 of them are new candidates, Chris West and Jennifer Rout. I hope I'm saying your last name correctly. And then we have 2 candidates on the board, or 2 candidates, the other 2 candidates on the election were previously appointed last year. That's Stephanie and Ashley, but we would like to officially elect them this year so we can have all of them elected. They were appointed last year, but we would like to have them all elected. So when you vote, you are able to vote for all 4. This is not like a just pick one. There are 4 spots available. And then that's all I have. Mine's pretty short and sweet. And then Stephanie's going to talk about the election starting next week.
Thanks, Rachel. I'm Stephanie Cosby. I've been on the board for a year. I was appointed last year because we didn't get enough voter turnout to make me properly elected. But my son, Finn, is in the kindergarten class. That's why I was attracted here. My family actually moved down to Fort Collins mostly because of Mountain Sage. We were pretty stoked that there was a charter school offering Waldorf. So I'm still kind of figuring it out even after a year on the board, but it's been an awesome way to participate in something really meaningful. But more details about the election. So it's going to be underway, as I think Bo mentioned earlier. It's going to start April 4th. That's next Monday. And it'll be going for a couple weeks until the 22nd. There will be a laptop set up during the family teacher conference days, which are April 14th and 15th. That will be at the school if you don't just want to click a link from an email. It should be pretty easy to do, super fast. And again, all 4 of us are going to be on the ballot and you can vote for all of us. There's no reason you have to just pick one. It's not a popularity contest, but if you really don't like me, you don't have to vote for me. No pressure. But in order to be a legitimate board of directors, a certain % of our members must be elected. So please help us stay legit. And if you can encourage any other parents or families to participate in the election, it will help a lot because we sort of need the turnout. I think that's everything I have to contribute to this discussion. Yeah.
Stephanie, I was just going to mention, you almost touched on it, was there's a minimum requirement for participation by members of our school community. And what happened last year wasn't that people didn't like Ashley or Stephanie, it's that we didn't reach the minimum required participation by our school community for it to be a legitimate election. And that's why we want to definitely avoid that this year. We definitely want to get participation from all of our school communities so that we can officially have them in, because they're great.
Yeah, that wording sounds a lot better.
You are doing fantastic.
I can talk about the mode of the election, Liv. So it's going to come from Election Buddy. That's who our platform is, that we do elections. Nobody can see, like, we can't see who voted for who. We can just see how many people have voted. An email will come out to you. I have it set for the election to begin Monday at 9 a.m. on the 4th, and then it'll end at 5 p.m. on the 22nd. So I'm assuming the email either will come Monday right at 9 a.m. or just before that to let you know that the election is happening. So check your email, be sure to check all your folders and your spam folders and things that way.
Well, that wraps it up for our scheduled program. I just want to thank everybody for taking the time to join this community update. It's fantastic to see everybody on the screen, but we're so excited to get back to in-person events, and looking forward to volunteer opportunities in the near future. And so please, for those of you in attendance tonight, look out for those communications, and to the extent you can commit some time to volunteering, that'd be fantastic. I think all of us are looking forward to, in the years to come, getting back and putting more of the community, in-person community, back in Mountain Sage Community School. Everybody has done fantastically through these last couple of years, but I, for one, am looking forward to kind of the old school way of, seeing people and going to festivals and things like that. So thanks again for your time. We'll hang out here for a couple minutes in case there's some other questions in the chat, unless somebody else, I haven't seen any questions that have gone unanswered. If there are, please make a demonstrable movement so I can see. Otherwise, oh, got one. The process for getting your verification for a volunteer.
I can speak to that. We do kind of a volunteer verification reboot every 2 to 3 years. We're kind of still determining what the right cadence is of that. But you will not have to, if you are currently a verified volunteer, you will not have to redo that verification until you are notified by the school that you need to do so. So if you're a year or two in, you probably don't need to.
Awesome. Thanks, Liv, for fielding that. Well, I do just want to say again, thanks to the board members, thanks to Liv, thanks to Nancy, thanks to everybody I see on here, Amanda, Hillary, this is just such a great group. Thanks for our incoming, about to be elected board members, Jen and Chris, and Mackenzie came to the last board meeting too. So thank you again for your time, and thanks for joining us tonight for this community update. I think people will start jumping off of the Zoom meeting, but to the extent there's any questions that arise hereafter, feel free to reach us at board@mountainsage.org. And also, to the extent something arises, there's a whole host of folks at the school who are just waiting for your questions, happy to answer them, and would love to take the time to talk to you. So I will say my piece and say thank you. And anybody else who wants to say anything before we log off, please do. But thanks again for joining us.
I want to remind everybody that they can always show up at our in-person board meetings. There's often snacks there, and it's so much warmer in person.
Yeah.
And I'll hang out and as I'm sure other board members will, if there's other people that have questions. Or just say hi.
I think we might be able to stop recording now if is that okay?
Yeah. Yeah. I was waiting to see if that last great question was going to come in.
I mean, we could all do like a really kind of cool pose and then you could stop the recording so that at the very end, it just kind of looked.
I was kind of curious if the video recording will switch back and forth between a different view. So I just switched it over to the view of everyone. Yeah. So
Oh, nice.
if you show us your camera right now, maybe we'll get a shot of everybody that's still here.
We should
Unless you
all
don't
jump
want
up
us
in the
looking at
air.
your random background.
I expected a big question from James
Yeah.
before we got off, but you know.
You get bonus points for being
him on the
like our
spot.
first student representative to come to one of our board meetings here. I can't remember when a student attending them in the past. You know, one of the things I thought was interesting, Liv, is that with the construction going on next door to the school, I don't know if folks know kind of what the time frame is that's going on with that, but and also how that might have implications for us, the school.
Yeah, well, yeah, so I think they'll be done early June, which will have positive implications for us as a school. We'll be able to increase our staff parking a little bit and hopefully just things will feel a little bit more mellow in the business park
Yeah.
on the whole.
You've had conversations with them in the past about possibly sharing space kind of thing.
Yep. Yeah. Well, we're in conversation with them, and as their needs and use becomes a little bit clearer as they, occupy the building, we're talking about what opportunities we might have to share for, kind of more occasional use, but also potentially, ongoing administrative office space and things like that.
And Ashley, you guys are all busy with purchasing the building, but we also might be looking at potential expansions or improvements to the existing building too, right?
Oh, but wait, before you answer that, James raised his hand.
Oh, my apologies.
Got a question? Sorry.
I was gonna ask if you guys have any plans to ask like potentially the other buildings around our school if they'd be willing to sell to us.
We have asked, so far no takers, but maybe someday. That'd be really
Maybe
nice.
if you asked James,
Yeah, maybe if you ask James.
good question.
I'll just go knocking on their door tomorrow. Hey, would you be willing to sell them out and stay?
Take some treats with you.
I think they'd have a hard time saying no to you.
Okay,
Sorry,
sorry.
Eric,
pressure.
What was your
No
question?
pressure.
Oh, I was just asking, like, we with the different scenarios that you guys have worked on, you're definitely focusing on the purchase of the existing building right now, like that's the focus. But we didn't really talk at all about kind of like what other potential things might be coming in the future. I mean, I know that things aren't settled, but I was curious if you had comments about that.
Yeah, it's really hard to give much about that because we just don't know at this point. It's so up in the air. It's just really speculation at this point.
Mhm.
And so I just don't want to give anything because I just don't really have anything that's even solid enough to,
Yeah.
it would just all be just like dreams at this point. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? So it's just a little early to give much of anything. I'm hoping that let's see, if we close in April, we are kind of preliminary doing some planning for some charrettes with the community and the staff before the school year is over. And so, if all goes well, then that would kind of fall into place next, and that'll kind of get that ball rolling. And around that same time, we would also be putting out an RFP for design firms to decide who we're going to be using for an architect. So that we're really at those beginning stages. We don't even know what's possible in the building because we don't have those people on our team yet.
Well, I'd asked earlier, Brian, or I'd mentioned on there, because we've had discussions like, how does a school, when we're using up all our money, we have a little buffer that we tend to put away. But how do we purchase a school? I mean, that's a big chunk of money, right? How do we purchase a property? How's that work?
Yeah, well, I alluded to the bond issue, but didn't want to go into too many details on that because it's not necessarily a part of the budget that I was reviewing for this year. However, it does obviously directly affect what Ashley was talking about and our capabilities of buying the building. So we put down earnest money from our reserves, which we had enough of, and we had built up to be a pretty respectable amount. And that allows us to move forward in this process. And then through the bond financing, which is essentially an investment that we get through, and there's a special sort of tax implication for the person who's investing in that bond, for us to be able to get access to that capital. And then we start paying that back over time at a particular rate, which is favorable and different from like a mortgage. So, without going into too many of those details, we will get paid back on that money that we put into the earnest money and put into the process of buying the building. If we close at the end of April, we're going to get that back by the end of this fiscal year. So those, like I said, when I went through the total budget overview, it's going to look a little different because the expenses, the capital or the non-capital expenses that went into our operations budget will be reduced or paid back. And my dog said he agrees. So
Thanks.
does that answer that question?
Yeah. And thank you, Bo, for offering to play us out at the end of our town hall. That's what you have the guitar there for, right? Oh wait, no, there you go.
Lost the video.
You guys have all been great. All the other board members, the new board members joining, and Bo, before we lose you, you've been great to work with as well. This is a really great group of people to work with. So it's a fun time. It's a lot of good work, a lot of good involvement.
Thanks, Eric. Couldn't agree more. It's a good group. I have a high level of confidence. There are great things to come from here. So board's in good hands, school's in good hands. I will not lose sleep at night.